see what you can do for people. The more you can do for your staff, the more you can do for people, the more you can do for the owners, the more you can do for your guests, the further you will go. The more you're focused on you, you're not going to get very far.
Hello and welcome to the Modern Hotelier presented by Stay Flexi, your all-in-one modern operating system for independent hotels. Each episode will get to know an industry expert and we'll discuss the latest trends in hospitality to help you, the Modern Hotelier. Welcome to the Modern Hotelier presented by Stay Flexi. I'm your host, David Malilly.
And I'm your co-host, Steve Karen.
Steve, who do we have today?
Yeah, David, today we have on the one and only Anthony Melchiorri. Anthony's well known for being the host of Hotel Impossible on the Travel Channel. But currently, Anthony is the president of Argeo Hospitality and the co-host of No Vacancy with Glenn Hausman. It's also common to see Anthony speaking, hosting, or producing some type of hospitality content as well. So welcome to the show, Anthony.
You forgot David Malilly's luggage carrier.
And David Malilly's luggage carrier.
All right. So, Anthony, we got really three sections. One's going to be kind of a quick get to know you. So people who've, heard you talk or seen you on LinkedIn get to know you a little bit better. The second will be about Hotel Impossible, your career. And then the third is really just about advice and industry trends and things of that nature. So what was your first job in hospitality?
My first job was Embassy Suites, Overland Park, Kansas. I was a night auditor, and then I was the breakfast person, and stayed there when I was in the Air Force part-time for a couple of years. If you don't count busboy and valet parker and Frankfurter giver-outer.
Do you have a favorite hotel?
La Residencia in Mallorca, Spain, at the Plaza Hotel, and of course, my favorite, the Algonquin.
What's the weirdest thing you've seen in a hotel?
The weirdest thing I've ever... Dude, that's like asking, the Pope, what was the most religious
Give us one.
thing on earth?
Give us one.
The weirdest thing I've ever seen in a hotel... A gun underneath the bed.
What do you think you'd be doing if you weren't in hospitality?
Legitimately being your luggage carrier.
That's good.
I would probably be a professional poker player, 100%.
I picked that
you
one.
You knew that.
Yeah. Was there somebody who you admired growing up? Someone you looked up to?
Growing up? No, because my life was so chaotic. I didn't really, as you know, I was a busy person when I was growing up. And a lot going on, just trying to keep it together. But I would say the first person that I really admired was General Colin Powell. He was the first person I remember really idolizing.
If you could trade places with someone for a day, who would it be?
No one.
Not me.
No one.
Okay. Do you have a secret talent that nobody knows you have?
I can juggle.
That's pretty good. What's your favorite adult beverage?
You answer that.
Johnny Walker Blue. What's a sound or noise that you love?
Oh, my kids. Anything. And as you know, my kids are not kids anymore. They're adults. My twins are 22 and my baby's 19. But like last night, we went to the Sebastian comedy thing at Barclay, and just watching my kids laugh was like everything.
Why is Coney Island so special to you?
Because my father painted the parachute ride, and my dad died when I was 2. So every time I see the parachute ride, matter of fact, I always say if you see me like on Instagram taking a picture of me near the parachute ride in my car, that means I'm having a day where I really need like focus and I need support. Okay. So I go there to get focus and support from my dad.
What's a perfect day like for you in Las Vegas?
Why don't you answer that, David?
Sitting at the poker table for 18 hours. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
The ability to make sure my kids are always okay.
That's a good answer. So I've been out with you a lot. People recognize you. They scream out, Anthony. Who's the person you get mistaken for the most when you go out? I know some of them, but who do you get the most where people think you're somebody else?
I would say it's very close, but it's Pitbull. And very close second, Howie Mandel, which I don't see Howie Mandel. Pitbull, I don't see either, but whatever. I got Tom Selleck a couple times.
Well, I like the story you told when the guy, I think it was at a Marriott, you were checking in. The guy said, "You're Howie Mandel."
Right.
You said, "No, I'm not." And the guy just kind of looked at you like, "Yeah, you are."
And the woman who was checking me knew who I was, and she was floored. She was so embarrassed. And to this day, he thinks I'm Howie Mandel.
All right. So I've written down the word, but what's the best word to describe you?
Fair.
Oh, I didn't have that one. I had passionate and intense. Those were my two guesses.
You know what? The reason I say fair is because my social media manager asked a whole bunch of people that know me and said, describe Anthony, your favorite word. And a lot of passion and intense came out. But Alex Goldstein, who's a producer of my show and is producing some things for me currently, and just produced the Icon show for HBO and is doing the Liza Minnelli documentary. Very talented young guy. And he said fair. And he saw me for 9 years on set where I had a reputation being pretty intense because we had a real show, as you know, going on. And I wasn't going to take any crap from anyone. And so a lot of people say, well, he's difficult to work with. He's intense. He's passionate. But he said he's fair. And that was my favorite word to describe him because I am fair. I'm a very fair person.
No, I agree. All right, Steve, let's get us going with the second part.
All right. Sounds good. So Anthony, now we're going to learn a little bit more about you, kind of what, where you grew up, what makes you tick, things like that. So you grew up in Brooklyn, correct?
Correct.
Was there anything that really shaped you to make you who you are today from growing up in a place like Brooklyn?
My dad dying when I was 2, my mom doing things she had to do to put food on the table. As David knows, there's a movie about my life story that stars James Caan and Melissa Milano called Wise Gal. So growing up in that environment where I had a mother who was very strong-willed and did what she had to do to put food on the table, kept us clean, made sure that we didn't get in trouble. We could have easily got in trouble. And very, very powerful force and somewhat unpredictable. So I think, it was funny because the other day I realized when my daughter walks into a room, she sums up the room in a second. And she grew up, in a pretty comfortable life. And I sum up the room in a second too, because I never knew when I opened the door what I was going to get, right? So I would say the death of my dad really changed the trajectory of my life.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And then you joined the Air Force a little later in life. How did that prepare you for hospitality?
Well, I was 19 years old. A couple things. One, I was promoted, fortunately, to protocol officer, which is the most dangerous job in the military because I have to pour really hot coffee. And, hot coffee is really dangerous. So as they're talking about top secret things, the B-2 bomber was on our base, the stealth bomber, I should say. We had 150 intercontinental ballistic missiles, and I was in those top secret meetings pouring coffee. So I realized I saw one of my colonels, he became a general eventually, but he walked out of the room. He got I don't know what it was, a text message or someone came in, I can't remember, and said there was a problem. So he left the meeting we were in. It was a top secret meeting, and he left, and about an hour later, he came back into the meeting. And weeks later, I said, hey, Colonel, when you left, what was that all about? Because he never left meetings. He was the commander. And he said, we thought we had a nuclear default, which means a nuclear weapon was armed. And he walked out of that room, and it wasn't. It was just a computer error. And he walked out of that room like he was just going to church and came back like he just came from church. And so, when you're sitting on nuclear weaponry and the people that you report to handle nuclear weaponry, you kind of start to realize what leadership's all about.
Absolutely. Did you learn to keep your cool in intense situations like that as well?
That took me a while. I don't know. And David, maybe you can answer that. You see me in intense situations. Do I keep my cool? How do I handle myself?
I think you handle your cool very well. I think it's, I think it's when somebody is trying to push your buttons, but goes too far or does something that's just unacceptable. That's not, just when someone's just being an ass, I think that's what will set you off. But I think for the most part, having seen you in situations and dealt in certain things, you're very calm. If you're heated, there's a very good reason. Like if you lose your temper, there's a very, very good reason. It's not like you're just a hothead.
Right. And honestly, I remember the last time I lost my temper. And the last time I lost my temper was in Daytona Raceway 7 years ago with one of my producers, and I still regret it. It was something she did that wasn't right, but I kind of lost my temper. And I don't yell and scream. I'm not that guy. I'm just not. But a lot of people would say, no, Anthony, you've lost your temper a lot more than that. But I get intense. I don't lose my temper. I get intense. And so I'll get real direct with somebody. And I'll tell people what the standard is and what's acceptable, not acceptable. But I kind of grew up with kind of a lot of stuff in my house. So I don't like yelling and screaming.
People would say you're a very fair person.
It depends. I would say the last 15 years, yeah. But there's a lot of people that probably would cross the street if they saw me, because I have no problem asking people to, you're not welcomed on set, or you're not welcome in the hotel anymore. One of the things I've learned in managing businesses is really high standard, high quality people don't like mediocrity. They hate it more than I do. And so when you allow mediocrity to happen, even if I like that person, even if I want that person to stay, my team will not function at the highest level. So, I am not the smartest person in the room by far. I am not the most intense person in the room by far. I'm not even the most passionate in the room by far. But I have to maintain that standard for everyone else in the room, because we've all been around where somebody's mediocre and we're all like, why does that person get away with that crap? When we all hold ourselves to a high standard. So I have no problem holding the standard and being very direct with people.
That's awesome. Kind of speaking of holding that high standard, you went through the process of renovating the Algonquin Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to know, what was that process like? Kind of how did you decide what to do next, and what was that like?
Well, when you look at a renovation of a historic property, and a lot of us have been through it, it's normal. It's nothing that extraordinary. A lot of general managers have done it. A lot of hotel people have done it, and they've done a lot more than I have. What made the Algonquin unique is it had not been turned around for 30 years, and it was an icon that everybody forgot about. It was dusty. It smelled like cat pee. And financially, it wasn't hitting the mark. The union was very aggressive towards the management and controlled the hotel. So I had an ownership that brought me in and said, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. That's like giving a crack out of crack, right? It's like, what? Are you serious? It's like, yeah. I was like, he goes, just don't screw it up and you won't get fired. I said, okay. So that's all I needed to hear. And, I did things that were unconventional, and David knows all these stories. One time, I unfortunately had to go toe-to-toe with a union delegate, and I got his attention, and I got everybody's attention. And he became somebody who was supporting me. I gave everybody in the hotel my phone number the first 2 weeks I was there. I had a meeting with my entire team, and I said, the managers don't know what they're doing, and some of them will be here in a couple of weeks, some of them won't. One lady literally left. One manager left the stage that day and never came back. And I gave my phone number to the staff and said, when we understand the union contract and we understand how to run this hotel, we'll run it. Right now, you guys run it and let us know if you need anything. Here's my cell number. And this young lady, Queen, not young lady, older woman, said, you're crazy for giving everybody your phone number because everybody's going to call you in the middle of the night. The only person to ever use my phone number that was a line employee was Queen. So it really shook people. One, I stood up to the bully, squared up on him. I won't tell you the story. David can tell you offline. And the other was I gave my phone number out. And then I started to do things with my team that made the hotel money, made the union members money. And it was some of the best years we've ever had. And we were just one great team. So, turning around a historic hotel, a lot of people have done it. This hotel in particular, we had to do it on a dime. And the renovation took us 28 days. And the New York Times said the only thing that turned around in July of that year was the Algonquin Hotel, that on time, I should say. And we did it for just $3 million. We did all soft goods. And it was crazy. It was crazy to do it. We shut it down for the first time in the history. And as Mike Lyons, our 50-year person that was at the Algonquin 50 years, said to me, the Depression didn't shut it down. World War II didn't shut it down. Anthony Melchiorri is going to shut down the Algonquin. Pats me on the back and said, good luck with that, boss. And that scared the living shit out of me. And 28 days, we opened it up, and it went crazy. We turned it around. And more importantly, we doubled the money for the owner. And that was kind of what, and the union had pride back in the building. The hotel had a name again. And it was just fun. It was just fun and scary as hell.
So you do a lot of speaking engagements. Do you still get nervous?
as you know, I have horrific stage fright. I've had crippling stage fright. And I figured out that for the first couple of years I was doing this, I had a moderator. Even if I had to pay him myself, I had him come on and help me. And then I was great. I was on stage and I was great. If I have a moderator, I can be on stage naked and I don't care. And then recently, I'd say in the last 2 years, I take the stage and I'm not really nervous anymore. And it's just because I know what I need to be comfortable. And I just did one last week and I'm doing one on Monday. And last week, I was probably the least nervous I've ever been. And I got the longest standing ovation in my career. So I figured it out.
How many people were there?
1,500, 2,000.
Oh.
And it was probably the most comfortable I've ever been in my life on stage. And this week it's a Q&A with IHG, and I'm going to doing it with a friend of mine who's the vice president, Jim Taylor. So I'm looking forward to that. And now that's a Q&A, so that's typically easy. But yeah, and I think I like that question because everybody looks at us, right, David? And it's like, oh, you can do anything, and oh, you're so lucky and all that. And we know each other very well, that we've had ups and downs and we have our own insecurities. And I like that question because everybody laughs at me when I say I have stage fright, because like, what are you talking about? You did a TV show. 9 years, that camera went on and David was there the first day. I wasn't even nervous. I wasn't even close to nervous. I was nervous about doing a good job, but I wasn't nervous about being on TV because I kept on bumping my head into the camera because I didn't recognize I was on TV. So that was never a problem for me. Getting on stage in front of one person or 10,000 people was something that really, really I had to overcome. And I like talking about it because I have overcome it. I didn't talk about it maybe a couple of years ago as much because I hadn't overcome it and I was afraid. Because I was afraid. I don't know why I was afraid. But now I love it because that was something that almost took me out. Like literally almost took me out. And the thing I love the most is doing speaking gigs. I love them.
Well, you're. I mean, not just because you're on the show, but you're very good. I mean, everyone I talk to who knows that we know each other always, or they've seen you speak, or they always are like, "Wow, I saw Anthony. He did a great job." Do you have one that's your favorite? Was there one that you kind of like finished and you were just like, "That was, I couldn't do this. I couldn't do another one better than this."
I don't have a favorite, but I will tell you one that stands out. I did one for Cornell, and the kids at Cornell, and I did it for free, and I did it because of college, and they, I was honored to do it. And this young lady wrote her paper to get into the hotel school based on my show and based on me, Amanda, who's still a friend of mine. And she was just lovely. And they could have invited anyone. Matter of fact, Mr. Marriott's grandson was in the class, and they, instead of inviting Mr. Marriott, they invited me. And I was supposed to talk for, I think, 50 minutes. I had a moderator with me at the time. I did 2 hours and 50 minutes. And I didn't realize it because I was talking Q&A and I didn't want to leave. And I felt like I had just got on stage. So, a lot of the younger generation gets a bad rap. One, I think what they've been through in the last couple of years, I think they're going to be the next great generation. I really believe that because they've been through hell, like what we all have, but they're 20. Somebody was doing a review of my kid who works in the hotel business and said she's resilient. And so I think she's resilient for a number of reasons. And one, because the last couple of years, she had to be. So that stood out, that the Cornell kids and really the college kids in the hospitality program, they're a different breed, man. They're smart, they're passionate, they're hardworking, and so those always stand out. But that one session really stood out. And then another thing, they brought me to dinner at the Hotel Statler, and we're sitting around the table, maybe the executive team of the student body, and there's maybe 20 of them. And I asked, how many kids? Now, this is a kid that had never been to Europe until he had a TV show. No, actually, I went with my brother once to meet my family. But anyway, I said, how many people by show of hands have been to Europe? And they all laughed at me because kids that go to Cornell have been to Europe since they were like 3. So They were very worldly and really admired them.
So you'll get a kick out of this one. So can you explain to those who are either watching or listening, what's a missile pilot?
You know what I love about you? You did it with a straight face and you did it with like just complete, like a great tone. A missile pilot is when you and your best friend, rest his soul, Russell Herbie Hooks, go into a bar in Warrensburg, Missouri, and you're single and you tell the girls that you're trying to dance with that you're missile pilots. And they say, what's a missile pilot? And this is not true. I don't want to Steve, get you and think this is true. I was like, well, we're at a missile base, so who do you think flies the missiles over to, Russia and then jumps off the missile? And they're like, you do that? I said, yeah, there's a little thing, and you jump, and we pilot it, and then we jump off. Everyone always believed us. But a real missile pilot sits in a silo and shoots off missiles.
And everybody believed you. Nobody second guessed you on 100%, that one?
100%. I got taller and handsomer.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. That's great. So, Anthony, I kind of want to ask you a few questions or, shift the topic here to Hotel Impossible. I've seen the show. I thought watched it years ago and loved it. How did you really get the idea to start Hotel Impossible?
Well, I had a friend of mine that offered me the CEO job of his company. And for two reasons, I couldn't do it. And that would have been the most fun I've ever had, is working with my best friend in his company. But I just decided it wasn't right for me at that time. And I was tired of I worked at Tishman at the time. And I liked Tishman, and I liked all the people I've worked for in the industry. But I literally was tired of making rich people richer. That was kind of my statement to myself. I'm like, I'm just tired of this. It's like, I think I'm good at my job. I think I've done a good job, but like, I want to teach the business and I want to build my own brand. So I got the idea for the show with help of friends like David and other people. They helped me. And before I knew it, I got lucky. It was the right time, preparation and opportunity equal luck. And I worked hard. I went through a lot of money for 2 years, staying out, trying to get the show done. And right before I was about to, say, I can't do this anymore, I went through my FU fund. They called me and said, they're picking up the show. And that was probably professionally the happiest day of my life, because I just intuitively knew people wanted to see this show. And there's not been a hotel show in America that's been successful ever to this day outside of our show. And it took someone like me and my team that didn't have anything. I had everything to lose professionally, because if I really screwed up and didn't do a good job, I would never be able to be invited back into the hotel industry. So that's who I served. I served the housekeepers and the front desk people and the managers and owners who would watch the show. And I never cared about ratings, never cared about producers, never cared about Travel Channel. I just cared about the hotel owner and their staff. And if I did that, I said the things that a lot of vice presidents of brands and general managers can't say. I mean, how many times in an airport, probably never am I not in an airport where people don't come up to me and go, oh my God, you changed the way I check into a hotel, or I wish I could have said that to my boss. It's like I said the things, and it's not 100% not scripted. David's been on set. He knows it's 100% not scripted. And I created it, helped, I started creating it, and then my team helped me, and I helped produce it, and I hosted it. So everything you saw was what I wanted. And never once did Travel Channel say curse less, curse more, be funnier, look taller. They never gave me a note. Not to say on set with producers, they all tried to give me notes, and that didn't work out so well for them.
Well, you didn't even, when you started, you didn't even have, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the beginning, you weren't even sure you wanted to be the host. It was just more about getting it made, not about you being host or you having a show.
That's what I love about having my best friend interview me, because missile pilot, and no one knows that, because everybody knows my personality, thinks I want to be in the front. I love producing. I never have to be on TV another day in my life, and I never have to be on a mic another day in my life. If I can make a living producing and whatever, I do want to do keynote speaking the rest of my life because I enjoy it. But I actually tried to force them to not have me as host, but that wouldn't have worked out, because the person that I would have had to manage, that was the host, would have probably stabbed me in the neck. Because 99% of what you saw was impromptu. Like, it just happened.
Wow.
I mean, it was just 100%. I remember being on a set in, where was I? I was in Cola, California, and there was a really bad pool. It was disgusting. It was a filthy pool. And there's a gentleman named you can look him up, Brandon Braga. He's a big producer in Hollywood. He emailed me one day and he said, listen, I do a lot of things you do on set. You've taught me how to be a better manager. And this guy did Cosmos with Neil Tyson, and he's done Star Trek. He's done everything. And he is one of the biggest producers in Hollywood. Matter of fact, I was with him at dinner one day, and he's talking to Steven. I go, Steven who? Spielberg. So he's a big shot, and he was on my set because I was Louisiana. I was in Louisiana with my daughter on set because I was going to go to his set because he was in Louisiana shooting to show my daughter because she wanted to be in theater and movies. And he came to my set, and he was standing there with his assistant. And I'm just flabbergasted that this guy is even interested in my set or my show or me. And we're done with this hour. And it was supposed to be 5 minutes, went an hour. It was crazy. I was chasing an owner. He threw a shoe at me. It was just crazy. He called the cops on us. It was insane. And he said to me, he looked at me and he goes, I didn't see you rehearse that. I go, rehearse what? He goes, that was real? I go, dude, that was 100% real. That all happened like just impromptu. And he couldn't believe it because when I've been on his set, obviously it's very regimented. And so that's really what I enjoyed most about the show, but also why I think it resonates with not only hotel owners, but a lot of managers is we deal with nonsense all day long. And, something just happened to my company that I run. And if I had a camera on me for the last day and a half, it would have been maybe the best show in the episodes because it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts.
Yeah, that's the number one question I get asked about you or the show is, was that real? Like, is that's like scripted, right? And I'm like, no. I'm like, actually, if somebody does try to script it, like everything blows up. I'm like, people get fired. I'm like, no, it's real. So, what's your favorite? Is there? You did? I know you. I mean, you did. I think you did how many? 100 plus episodes.
108, 9 seasons.
108. What was? Was there one
and 2 other spinoffs that we did?
5-Star Secrets and Extreme Hotels, correct?
Mm-hmm. And we did another show that I came on as a voiceover, a Hotel Showdown.
Oh, that's right. Was there one episode that was your favorite of Hotel Impossible? One that you really felt like, wow, that was maybe the most exhausting?
I was thinking of the first show other than the pilot I did. The first real show we did was the one down in Florida with a family and with these young girls, and we were able to help the family. But I'm going to go to the last show we ever did. It was the 108th show. And you've heard me say this, David. I was like, I want the last show to be our best show. And the last show was our best show. It was the best crew I've ever had. It took us 5 seasons out of the 9 to get the crew that I was most proud of. And I never stopped. And David heard all the nightmare. I never stopped. Even our director who was with us for the first 5 seasons, we just fought all the time. And finally, I just had it. And it was like, it's either him or me. And I still love him to this day. We're friends, and I wish him nothing but the best, but I just couldn't take it anymore. I was too stupid to realize I could let him go the first season. But he was great. He helped me, but he was just too restrictive on lighting and positioning of camera. He would never tell me what to do, but like we'd have to walk through a door 3 times, and I'm like, I'm done with this. And then the other person that did our pilot with us came back. He was our director, and he was just like, it was a shit show every day, and it was great. It was like we were running into walls, cameras were falling downstairs, we were falling off the back of mopeds and snowmobiles, and it was crazy. I almost killed myself 5 times. The more I almost killed myself, the more he loved it. It was just, and it's so funny. Somebody just said to me recently, who's a big, big fan of the show, said, what happened in the 5th season? It changed. I go, what do you mean? And it was a subtle change. It's like, it just got quicker. And it was like, that was a change of directors. But the last show was so intense, and the owners were so horrific to the employees that I threw a chair across the banquet space. And I didn't do it on camera because I wouldn't have done it on camera. I was just so frustrated. And the cameraman said, "Hey, can you do that again?" I was like, "Unless I'm throwing it at you, no, I can't do it again." And I went into my green room, my trailer, because we couldn't stay in the hotel because we had bed bugs everywhere. And I remember being in my trailer, and the camera was coming in, and I kicked the door closed. I was like, "Do not come in here with that camera." And the director came in, and I broke down in his arms. I started wailing like a 3-year-old because I've never seen someone treat good people the way these 2 pieces of shit owners treated these employees. And I was so proud that the last show was our best show. And I always said, one day I'm going to get tapped on the shoulder and the show's going to be done. Only 200 shows in the history of American television have ever done 9 seasons. I'm one of them. So when I got tapped on the shoulder to say, hey, no, matter of fact, no one even called me and told me it's over. They just didn't pick it up anymore. I was so satisfied, and David can tell you that. I was the only one that was not upset because I was waiting for day one for it to be tapped on the shoulder and said no more. Because the percentages of doing a show for 9 seasons and doing it your way is 0.0000001%. Like I did it my way, my show for 9 years, for 9 seasons. I don't think any show's ever been done like that. Maybe Anthony Bourdain's show.
Yeah, and what I tell people, what's amazing is about with entertainment shows, movies, plays, whatever. There's voices, people sing. It's so subjective. Somebody has to like you. It's not like sports where wow, that kid throws 102 miles an hour. Yeah, he's pretty good. He's gonna make the major leagues. Or this guy's an all-star quarterback. It's so subjective. So to do it and get that, obviously has got to feel, incredible.
Well, what, I'm proud of really 2 things. One, I had the best teams, and the people worked their asses off so hard and made me look good. I was doing all the fun stuff where they were doing all the hard work. Me and my producer Alex, we talk about the time he prevented me from getting whacked in Sicily by a hitman, and that's a true story. Like he literally shut down the show because he said you'd get whacked if you went to that hotel. They would have killed you, and he wasn't kidding. And so I had so many great people around me. So I'm beyond honored and proud. And the only reason there's a show, and you hear it all the time, people are like, oh yeah, everybody else. It literally was. I mean, it was just me being able to be, it's like watching a kid in the playground, right? It's like you have to build the playground and your parents have to put protective barriers so you don't kill yourself, but you get to play in the playground. And that's what happened for the show. They put me in a protective playground and no one told me what to do. And it was the most fun. And I'm also the most proud of our focus group when the pilots in the first 3 episodes before it was on air, they go through focus groups. Everybody goes through them. Anthony Bourdain, everybody went through them. And to this day, I understand that my focus group was the highest rated focus group in the history of all of the channels on scripts at the time. And authenticity, believability, understanding of content, I was the highest rated. And that to me was my favorite because it was just me. I didn't water it down for anybody. I didn't care. I really don't. To this day, I don't care. I mean, if you don't like me, you don't like me. And another thing is, I don't know if I've ever read a bad comment about the show online. People say I'm full of shit and I'm an asshole and I'm Napoleon complex and stuff like that. But the show, I've never gotten a bad. I don't remember David getting a bad comment on a review on the show. I don't remember. I mean, if you go to IMDb, not IMDb. I think Amazon, the ratings are really high. Even on IMDb, the ratings are pretty high.
Again, I mean, a lot of times I talk to people, or if I have conversations about the show or about you, and not telling them that I've known you for 25 plus years. It's always positive. Like I've never had to say to someone like, well, what do you mean? Why didn't you like it, or what did you think? The question I always get is that wasn't real, right? That's fake, right? And I'm like, no, it's real.
Yeah. So David, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why on the pilot episode of Hotel Impossible were you cut and you didn't make the pilot episode?
Well, I had done such a great job that Anthony was nervous that they were going to give me the show. So he actually pulled them aside and said, yeah, you just got to cut that out. It's not going to work. It's, and that's the truth. And so
what was the asshole thing that I asked you to do? I asked you, what was it? Was it
you tried to take my tie off? Yeah. So here I am trying to be a good friend, drive all the way out to friggin' Montauk. And I don't do TV, so I got a tie and I'm presenting this website that we're going to do, and I'm all wired up. And he comes in and starts to, says, "Oh, you shouldn't have a tie on." I'm like, this is live, the recording. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm screwing up the whole show, but it was good. It was fun. It was fun,
but unfortunately, he didn't make the cut. I think there's one shot of your website that goes about that quick, right?
It's still online. A section of the show is online on the Travel Channel, and I did the day in the life of Anthony Melchiorri. You came to the offices. Yeah.
Which is one of the most liked videos I have online because my kids were involved. And my kids still, no, I think it was my kids. But it's my kids, like in college, their friends will find it and they just brutalize my children.
That's funny.
Fantastic. So Anthony, kind of going the other spectrum now. Any show that was just brutal, which was tough, which you remember that
Every one of them
sticks out to you?
No, and I'm not saying that to be like every one of them. Every one of them, I almost threw up. Every one of them, I lost a couple of pounds. Every one of them, I didn't think we'd make it. Every one of them, I threatened to quit. Every one of them, I was scared shit. Think about how TV works. You have a script, you have producers, and there's a budget. And you go and you rehearse and you hit the script and the actors act and the light is light and the camera's camera and everybody does what they're supposed to do. And it's over. It's like, surgery. Like, the script, you're going to go in there, you've done the surgery 100 times. And sometimes there's unexpected things, but you're prepared for it most of the time. Now, imagine being a producer and a director and a camera guy. You don't have a script. You have no idea what's in my brain. I don't know if I can get the show in the can because I don't know if there is a show, and we show up with a budget that we have to get a show. For me, it was hard, but imagine being around me and you have to trust me so you don't get fired, because if we go back without a show, we're all screwed. So until I got the show, and I didn't get the show in my brain until the second day afternoon or the third day morning. And I would turn to the director, like sometimes they'll go, oh, we got the show. It'll be fine, whatever. Until I said it out loud, we didn't have the show because I still was very scared. And sometimes I'll come off scene and I'll just look at the director and go, we got the show. See you later. And then for the next day and a half, I'm like so calm and cool and I'm so happy. And yeah, I'm still doing what I have to do and being intense, but I got the show. There was one show we did up in the Catskills, and the showrunner, who's basically in charge, took a very expensive $5,000 walkie-talkie and threw it at a tree about 10 feet from my head. That's how angry he was because I was walking off the show. And after he broke the camera, it was pouring rain, and I'm laughing at him, and I go, Rob, we got the show, bro. And I walked out, and that was it. And we got the show in 2 days. We didn't turn it around, and the guy was a piece of crap, but we got the show. Now, my job is to do the best I could. I did, and I got the show. Would I have walked out if we didn't get the show? Of course, I still would have walked out. But I knew it was coming to an end and the owners were going to throw us out. So I told them, let me go, and whatever it was, I said, let me go do that scene. And it was, remember, David, you probably remember this, when I had the 3 contractors, the roofer, the mold expert, and somebody else. I said, I have to have that scene before he throws us out. Because if I have that scene, the audience is going to hear those experts say, you got to bulldoze the place or you're going to kill somebody. And that's what they said. And then I was like, drop the mic, I'm gone. Because he's not going to do it. And I go, what do you want from me? He goes, I want you to leave. I said, bye. And then I got a radio thrown at my head.
Wow. Do you have any nervous tics when you enter a hotel, just from like all the bad hotels you've seen? Do you check for bed bugs every time? Do you open up the drawers? Anything you do now entering a hotel?
Well, the nervous tic I have when I'm doing the show is I'm not fun to be around the first day. I'm probably... Okay. So you probably don't want to talk to me or be near, even if David's on set, like you don't want to be near me. You don't want to have a drink with me. You don't want to go to dinner with me. Probably the first 2 days, you don't want to be near me. Not because I'm going to like throw anything at you, but I'm just like, I can't see your face. I don't remember your name. I can't hear your voice. I'm just petrified. Right, David?
Well, that goes into the intense, the passionate, the focus. I mean, I think that's knowing you or having spoken to you some of those days, or maybe mistakenly called you, you can tell you're very focused on what you're doing.
Yeah. So that's my nervous tic, is like fiercely competitive and fiercely hyper focused to the point where literally I can't hear you. Like literally I hear, because I don't, so that's, if that's a tic. And then I would say I immediately notice demeanor. Not so much dust or cleanliness or signs that are dirty or lights that are out. I immediately notice the first employee that I see, whether it be the person picking up trash in the parking lot or whether it be the front desk person. that is the thing that I really kind of have a problem with. On the other hand, when I was just at the new hotel in Vegas. My friend Shannon runs the new Resort World. She runs the whole complex, and she put me up at the what's the fancy one, David? It's Resorts World, it's Conrad, and it's the other one. Anyway, very beautiful hotel. I walk in and I was just like, wow, 20-foot ceilings. And we've all seen beautiful hotels before, but it was something about this. And I come out of the elevator and there's this young lady, and I didn't know where the men's room was. And she had this beautiful uniform on. And I said, that's a beautiful uniform. Is that your uniform or is that your clothes? No, it's your uniform. Isn't it beautiful? Actually, they bought it from Cintas, which I'm actually a sponsor of. So that was fun. And I just remembered just like this uniform was so gorgeous. I didn't even know what the girl looked like. I was just like, I didn't want to be like rude, but I was like, that is just gorgeous. And she's taking me she's directing me to the bathroom. And as she's directing me, she's pushing up the chairs in the exclusive VIP salon casino with her hip, with holding drinks, directing me in this beautiful outfit as she's pushing the chairs in and engaging me in a beautiful conversation. And then said, sir, enjoy your stay, and pointed me to the bathroom. And that resonated with me because it was class from the second I met the young lady to the second she dropped me off at the bathroom. She was class. So I really noticed demeanor.
Awesome.
Steve, I'm going to ask one quick question, then we can jump ahead. But I've been to a lot of your properties, know a lot of people you work with. You're very good at identifying good employees or good partners. As you look back, and you've even had a magician who was a bellman at one property, that was, I thought, just genius the way that kind of played out, being in the lobby and seeing him entertain kids and people. Is there a trait when you're interviewing somebody? Is there something that you are looking for when you interview somebody that you think is good for hospitality?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm feeling a little less secure because I just had something blow up on me the last 2 days where I hired somebody that just literally in 24 hours didn't work out. And they had this trait. So 99.9% of the time it works. This time, unfortunately, I think there were some other issues that I didn't recognize, and I don't want to talk about it here. But don't care about me. Care about wanting to do a good job. A lot of people talk to the general manager, talk to the owner, or talk to a vice president, and they get nervous. Then add on top that people know my face sometimes and know my name. They get nervous. When you can sit there and not really care about impressing me, but care about doing a good job for yourself, that impresses me. And I've been in those meetings with kids or older people where they don't give a shit if I live or die. They just want the job, and they want to do a good job, and they want to prove to themselves that they can do a good job. So that is a trait that I look for. If you get caught up in me or caught up in that you're nervous around me, I don't like that. And because it's not just because that maybe I'm this guy that people know, it's then you're just insecure. And that's okay because I'm insecure and I've been insecure my whole career. But there's something that resonates when I see somebody that's comfortable with just answering the questions and not trying to impress me.
Awesome. Kind of along those lines, do you have any advice for somebody who's just getting started in hospitality?
I think, and David, I'd like to hear your response to this as well. See what you can do for people. David is very much that person. I wasn't, and I'm learning to be more and more, but see what you can do for people. The more you can do for your staff, the more you can do for people, the more you can do for the owners, the more you can do for your guests, the further you will go. When you're worried about, someone actually on a podcast just said this to me as well, the more you're focused on you, you're not going to get very far. So even on set, I was always focused on, does the cameraman have what he needs? Did we have a good lunch? Are they staying in a nice hotel? Are they comfortable? Are they happy? Are they being treated? The reason that our director finally got fired is because he had a bad temper, and it was kept away from me for a long time. In the beginning, I saw it, then it went away because I told him if that ever happens, I'm going to put a camera in his head. And I saw it at Daytona, Florida, with this guy Nick, who was a great cameraman, and the show was in the can. It was the last scene. It didn't mean anything. It was 118 degrees. It was humid. We're all sweating. We're done. I mean, there's literally sweat going down my back. He's sweating. and he's a great guy. And he did one little stupid thing, maybe, I don't even remember, it was no big deal, and he flew into him. And I just happened to hear it, and that was the end of him. So making everybody have what they want and what they need makes you go further. And the good news is when you do that, you can hold people to a standard because there's no excuses. There's no excuse. I just gave you everything you want. It's like, I'll give you an example. We were in New Hampshire and we're at dinner. And I know when my producer's trying to keep something from me. So we're at dinner and I see the producers texting each other. And I'm like, okay, so I get up, I go behind Lisa and I go, Lisa, what's going on? No, we got it. I go, what's going on? Well, the general manager is causing a problem at the hotel, but we're down. So they're going to have to deal with it. I was like, no, up, let's go. And Lisa came, Maddie came, but my showrunner says, hey, I'm eating dinner. I was like, I don't care. I have my iPhone and I have these two. Goodbye, I'm leaving. And as I'm leaving, I jump in the car. He jumps in the car, still chewing. And we get there, and on iPhones, we have one of the best scenes in Hotel Impossible history, right? Because they believed in me, because they know that I will always do everything for them. I needed them at that moment because I knew instinctively that was going to be a great scene. And the guy threatened to beat the living crap out of me, so it was a great scene.
That
and then we
happen.
really, you remember that scene? You remember that?
No, I said it tends to happen a lot. People threatening you on the show.
Yeah, that's happened about, 6 times where people threatened to kill me?
Pretty much every episode.
But no one ever jumped. There was one guy in California, big guy. Unfortunately, when I left, there was a tragedy at the hotel because people didn't listen. But anyway, I don't want to go into that. But big guy, 6'3", 320 pounds. He came into me, and then I remember I threw my water bottle down. I stepped into him, and I go, let's go, buddy. I was like, you're a big tough guy. Let's be a big tough guy, but don't walk away from me now. And 10 minutes later, I'm with him, and remember this, David? His head is on my shoulder, weeping like a 3-year-old. And he said, thank you so much for your kindness. So because I stood up to him and wasn't afraid of him, I was like, dude, you're doing the right thing, but don't come at me. What do you think? You're a tough guy? You're going to scare me? No one scares me. Don't scare me. The only thing that scares me is my wife and my kids. Nobody else scares me. So you wanting to put me in the ground doesn't scare me. That excites me. I'm crazy. So I don't want to fight you. This is the last thing I want to do is fight anybody. I love you, man. I want you to be successful. And him and I are crying. It was one of my favorite scenes.
Well, I think what people, when Steve, you think of advice, I think what a lot of people forget is that the word hospital is in hospitality. And if you don't want to be that person who takes care of people, then you're in the wrong business. And that person could be a guest, it could be another employee. But it's like, think about the times when you've checked in and the person's like checking in. You're like, no, I'm standing here with my bags 9:30 at night. I've just taken a walk around the neighborhood. And you're thinking like, this person shouldn't have this job. So I think people just forget that, and some people get into it because they think it's glamorous or hotels and I can tell you, I lived on property for many years, and it's not always glamorous. It can be pretty tough.
Yeah, I think we have a need, people like us, and I just realized it not too long ago. I am hyper competitive, and so is David. Differently, you can see I'm hyper competitive. You don't know that about David, but he's hyper competitive, and we have a need to take care of people, right? I don't have a need to be your friend. I don't have a need for you to have dinner with me. I don't have a need for you to go over your house and play with your kids, but I have a need to, if you need my help, I will take care of you. If you're in my hotel, even if I don't like you, I need to take care of you because that is my job. I just went through my old file from the Lucerne Hotel. It's about that big. And there's about 100, there's 100 comment cards. And every comment card says, your team was great. They made me feel comfortable. They made me feel at home. You made me feel at home. I'm aggressive, but I literally have a need to make people happy. Like my family, last night we left a half hour. I left the Sebastian concert a half hour at the Barclays Center to pull my car around. I parked on the street, got there an hour early. So when they came out, we can get in the car and just go. Whether it be my kids or my wife or my neighbor, I have a need to make sure I facilitate stuff. So in the hotel business, I just have a need to facilitate stuff.
Yeah. I love that. Kind of a question here. How can hotels get creative with what they have? You had the $10,000 martini. If you want to, talk a little bit about how you came up with that idea or the backstory behind that, feel free. But any advice for hotels on how to get creative with things like that?
Yeah,
bring in revenue.
Yeah, stop trying to be creative.
Okay? All right.
and stop trying to make something up, right? Walls of a hotel can speak. So if you have a brand new hotel, or you have an old hotel like we did, it's easier with an older hotel because there's a lot of history. Listen to the walls, listen to the history, understand the history. The Martini on the Rock came about because we're famous for martinis and we're famous for proposals. Put the two together and there you go. And it blew up. It was the biggest thing in the world. But because we stayed true, and I fought to stay true because our PR company was giving me ideas I hated. So I fought and I fought and I fought to stay true. On a new hotel, find the thing either in the neighborhood. I just got a call from 3 kids from Boston University that are working on a hotel. I won't mention it in Boston. And they're like, we're tasked with a marketing idea. And this is what I said to them. I said, I ain't giving you one. But everything you're saying to me, you're talking about marketing. You're not talking about PR. You're talking about long-term. You're not talking about right now. I said, lightning in a bottle. Think of something that's lightning in a bottle. And they said, we're thinking about something with a unicorn. I said, okay, what is Moxie? And I'm sorry, I guess I just gave it away. It's the Moxie Hotel. And they're like, well, what does Moxie mean? With somebody that's got Moxie, it's got an attitude. I said, so if you want to use a unicorn, then make the unicorn have Moxie. And I said, I don't know what that means. All I know is you need to find lightning in a bottle. And you need to find it based on what the hotel is. Don't try to make something. It's like you're trying to be somebody else. Like I am me. And the reason if I've had any success in my life, or David's had any success in his life, and Steve, I'm sure the same thing with you, is because we are who we are. David will be a little bit more politically correct than me. I won't be. Okay? I just won't. I don't care. I'm not going to hurt anybody's feelings. I'll try not to. But I'm going to say what I have to say. I'm not going to be rude or disrespectful. But if you ask me a question, you're going to get the real answer. So when you're doing PR for a hotel or marketing, give them the real answer. My favorite commercial of all times is outside of the here kid, here's my jersey with Joe Green from the Coke commercial or the Pepsi commercial. What is it, Coke or Pepsi?
Coca-Cola.
Coke. The best commercial I've seen in a long time was when Domino's. Remember when the CEO of Domino's said we suck and we're going to suck less tomorrow? Do you remember that? He goes, we're not as good as we think we are. And then you hear a voiceover go, no, you didn't. And he goes, yes, I did. And we're going to be better. Their stock price went through the roof the next day. And they turned around. He was honest. That was the greatest PR campaign in the history of campaigns. What did he do? He was true to who he was. We suck. We're going to suck less tomorrow. Because that's our goal. Your goal, my goal, David's goal is to suck less than you did yesterday. And when he did that, I was just like, all praise, man. You're the greatest CEO in the history of CEOs.
I love that. So just be authentic. Be authentic with your surroundings and your culture, things like that.
Yeah, and be authentic, but don't be authentic to be authentic. Like there's people like, they're like, from Brooklyn, so they're going to overplay their Brooklyn hand, right? It's like, be who you are. Sometimes I'm really, really, really kind. Sometimes I'm really direct. Sometimes I'm really Brooklyn. Sometimes you think, very rarely, but maybe you think I went to an Ivy League school. That happens once in a while.
So right now there's, obviously, there's COVID, there's labor issues. And it's kind of, when you're on LinkedIn or you're talking to people, it seems like that's all people are talking about. What's something that we should be talking about in hospitality that you don't hear people talking about?
Communication. And I'll give you an example. David, if I say to you, what's the problem between the front desk and housekeeping? What's the problem between reservations and sales? What's the problem between union and the general manager? What's the problem between the owner and the general manager? You and I will write down a list and we'll probably come up with the same list, right?
Yeah.
So we have the same problems trying to get a different result using the same systems, right? Give you an example. Right now, I have a friend that just paid $1,200 to stay at a hotel in Miami. He works really hard at family business. He was 3 days in Miami, paid $1,200 for a decent room. And he said to me, I went into the store yesterday and he said, is it weird? Like, is it common that they don't clean the room anymore? And they go, they didn't clean the room the whole time? No. Did they bring towels? No. They didn't ask you at the front desk if you wanted service? No. They didn't tell you they don't do daily service? No. So he wouldn't have been upset. He's still not really upset, but like no one told him, sir, we don't offer daily service. Do you need us to offer daily service? it's an extra charge, or we don't do it, but we will bring you towels. Just call the front desk. We will take out your garbage. Just call the front desk. And he'd have been cool with that. So we have the lowest staffing we've ever had in our industry. We have the highest prices we've seen ever. Right now, this month is the highest prices we've ever seen in the hotel industry, period. Not since the pandemic, ever. So we have the highest prices. We're not coming down on the prices. Go to Orlando right now, $1,700 for a room. And we have the lowest staffing standards that we've ever had. And if you listen to my podcast, CEOs say it. Anthony, I lower my standards, no choice. Mediocrity right now is acceptable because I have no choice. Okay? So it is what it is. You can't find staff. You want high prices to keep your hotel going because you had 2 bad years. Communicate that. Do it in a funny way. Do it in a way that your staff can embrace it. Communicate. We suck at communication in our industry because we're always trying to hide and we're always trying to be perfect. And so instead of telling the guest who's paying $1,200 a night that you're not getting cleaning services, they got to ask me in a coffee shop 3 days later saying, hey, did I get screwed? I said, no, you got what's happening in the industry. So we really suck at communicating. We make believe we're communicating. And the second thing is we need more diversity in the C-suite. We need less middle-aged white guys in the C-suite. We need people coming up in this industry from different backgrounds, whether it be female, whether it be minorities, whether it be people with handicaps, whether it be people that don't look like me, because we represent everyone. And I think that there's been too many middle-aged white guys sitting in a C-suite for too long, making the same bullshit decisions that they've made for years. Some of them are great because I talk to them a lot of them on my podcast, but I think that that's the problem. And I'm sorry, did I give you my real honest opinion? I think I did.
It's a really good point. And, I stayed at a property, just a quick funny story. It was in Florida, and I was just baffled. I was like, what are on the screens that these front desk agents are looking at? Because I'm walking by them and no one's looking at me. Nobody's making eye contact. And then I go to check out, and I got a hook up for a room, and the guy says to me, the front desk agent says, would you like me to email you your receipt? And I said, yeah. I said, do you have my email? Because I wasn't sure because somebody else had made the reservation for me. He goes, that's a really good question. And then there's this awkward, we're staring at each other, and I'm thinking, all right, every other time I walk by, you're looking at the screen. This is when you need to look at the screen to find out if you have my email address. And he says, why don't I write down your email address? I said, great. He goes, what is it? I said, first name. He writes down first name. I said, last name. He writes down last name. And then I said, NYC. He wrote NYC, and I said, at Gmail. And guess what? I didn't get my email. I didn't get a receipt.
Well, your email, I thought your email was first name, last name, nyc.com.
I picked something that was very short. It's easy to remember. But you're right. The communication is really, it's bad. So it's a great point.
We talk about stand-ups, right? Somebody was on my podcast yesterday, and you change the world with stand-ups, right? I remember when I was Nickelodeon, and we have a stand-up 15-minute, everybody come around, and there was a problem with purchase orders. And it was a 1,500-room hotel with 2,000 employees, over 5 acres. I was the vice president. It was a big deal to turn this hotel around. And so one day, I remember somebody coming to my office and say, hey, purchase orders, I know we need this signature, that signature, they're a pain in the ass and whatever. And yes, it's all through the internet, but nobody signs into it. And I said, okay, how about this? We bring all the purchase orders to the stand-up every day, and you spend 5 minutes because every person that needs to sign those purchase orders are there. And we spend 5 minutes signing purchase orders, and then we go about our day, and we solve the problem. That's what we don't do in our industry enough. We don't communicate. We've solved the problem like that. And that, to me, right now, we have to not so much apologize, but we have to communicate the new standard, right? A lot of people don't want service. A lot of people love, like I do, going to the front desk, grabbing a soda or a water, grabbing a sandwich, okay, parking my car right in front, going upstairs, locking my door, and being left alone till the next morning, and then going downstairs, getting my real quick breakfast, getting in my car right outside the door, and leave. That's what most of us want today, especially if we're on business. So we're giving you what you want. Just communicate that to people so they know what to expect.
Kind of along those lines, what do you see the future guest experience going?
Very personalized. Very, very, I will tell you what I want and what I don't want. I want a text message. I want you to put my reservation on my key. I want to open up my door with my key. I want a robot to take my luggage, or I don't want a robot. It will be very, very personalized. And technology will dominate in 10 years. I think it'll be hard to find an employee in a hotel.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement that way. And you and I have talked about it. Like you said, you really, once you kind of get in, you don't really want to talk to anybody. You just want to text. You're texting everybody else. You're texting people in your house who are in another room. So you're in a hotel. And I think when you talk about that communication, I think it's not only the hotel employee, the communication to the guest is usually bad, because a lot of times hotels even adopt technology and they don't even let the guest know that it's there. So I always say hotels do a very poor job of marketing technology. That's why it's not always successful. So people say, apps don't work or mobile keys don't work. And it's like, well, yeah, but are you communicating it? I have a mobile boarding pass. Why wouldn't I want a mobile key? Why wouldn't I want to just go to my room? So I think the communication, is on both sides.
Yesterday, when I went to the concert or the show, I couldn't print a ticket. I had to have the app on my phone, and I've never experienced that before. I don't go to a lot of concerts, but I've never experienced that before. There was no paper at all. I was like, what do you mean no paper? I can't print out the ticket? 100%. So why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we be? And why we get to technology, and I talk a lot about this on a TV show, you probably heard it, is 10-4 and more, right? If everything's going technology, the guest experience and the interaction with the employee is limited. So if you do 10-4 and more, you're guaranteed your employees will engage. So what does that mean? Every single time somebody passes the front desk, every single time you pass a guest, 10 feet away, you have to acknowledge their existence. Could be just by a little head nod. 5 feet, you say good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is. And the more is when you're passing them, you say you have a great day. Or at Nickelodeon, we had a little tag. So it's like, oh, you like SpongeBob. So we would engage the guest. If you're doing that, it's mandatory. If you're walking around the property as an owner or general manager or whatever company you run, it's mandatory that people do that. So if it's mandatory, then you can hold people to a standard and fire them or promote them to customers, I like to say, if they don't hold that standard. If you hold that standard, you can have as much technology as you want, because people are going to say, oh my God, everybody's saying hello to me. Everybody's always asking me how I'm doing. This is amazing. And so even though I just see the housekeeper and they do that every time I see them, it changes everything. So I can do mobile check-in, but if I see a housekeeper and she says that makes me feel good. I can bypass the front desk and bypass room service, but when I'm walking down and the houseman, the security guard sees me and says, hey, have a great day, whatever it is, it changes the environment. We changed the Nickelodeon standard like that. It was on the books. 10-4 and more was in the policy book before I got there. When I read it, I was like, why are we doing this? And we changed the entire hotel within 24 hours just by doing that.
Well, that was our last question. We appreciate your time. As always, it's hopefully I'll get to see you in person soon. I think I'm going to see you soon.
Yeah,
but,
you're going to be my airport driver. You're picking me up to go to a wedding. Exactly. I invited him to a wedding and then disinvited him. We're all in an hour.
Yeah, I got all excited.
But you can still be my driver.
I was getting ready to text him, I'll take the beef. And then next thing you know, he's calling me and he's like, you're not coming to the wedding. And
it was vegetarian.
Yeah, give us, plug away. Tell us what you're doing right now. Tell us what you're going to be doing. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in your life professionally.
I don't like doing that. Go online. Go to AnthonyMelchiorri.com. Go to my podcast. Follow me on LinkedIn at Anthony Hotels. Follow me, on Instagram. If you can't find out what I'm doing or you can't get in touch with me, it's because you're not trying. So Anthony Hotels kind of opens up everything I'm doing. And but what I really enjoy doing the most is I enjoy being out there speaking to people in the industry or out. I spoke to a real estate company last week. I just love doing these keynotes. And if I can do nothing else in my life but just go out there and talk to people about my experiences and their experiences, I'm very, very, very happy.
Great. Well, once again, thank you. And that's it for the Modern Hotelier presented by Stay Flexi. And we will see you guys soon. Thank you.
You made it to the end of the Modern Hotelier. Thanks for watching. make sure to like and subscribe below. The Modern Hotelier is produced by Make More Media and presented by Stay Flexi. Stay Flexi is your modern operating system for independent hotels. If you'd like to learn more, feel free to go to stayflexi.com, or if you'd rather talk to me, message me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email at steve.karen@stayflexi.com. Thanks and have a great day.